victory that had no medal. The story of Ilia Malinin. There are moments in sport that no scoreboard can capture. Moments that don't belong to the judges, the commentators, or the record books. They belong to something quieter, something that hums just beneath the surface of competition, where the truest version of a person reveals itself not in triumph, but in the aftermath of loss. The 13th of February 2026. Milan, Italy. The Mediolanum Forum is packed, the world is watching. And somewhere in the waiting area, a 21-year-old boy who had just fallen apart on the biggest stage of his life is about to do something no one will forget. Born into the ice. To understand Ilia Malinin, you have to understand where he came from. His father, Roman Malinin, was a national figure skating champion from Uzbekistan. His mother, Tatiana Malinina, was a two-time world champion. Ice wasn't just a sport in their household, it was a language, a birthright, a second skin. When little Ilia first stepped onto a rink in Virginia, he didn't stumble. He glided, like he was remembering something he'd always known. By his teens, it was clear he was different. Not just technically gifted, but unafraid, willing to attempt jumps that most elite skaters wouldn't dare. At 17, he became the first person in history to land a quad axel in competition. The figure skating world held its breath and then erupted. They gave him a nickname, the Quad God. But nicknames are easy to give. Character is something else entirely. The weight of being chosen. Entering the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, Ilia had not lost a single competition in over 2 years. He was undefeated. He was the favorite. He was, by every measurable standard, the man who was supposed to win gold. That kind of certainty is its own kind of pressure. He led after the short program clean, brilliant, electric. The crowd loved him. The analysts called it a formality. All he had to do was skate the way he always skated, land the jumps he'd landed 1,000 times before, and the gold medal would be his. But sport doesn't care about certainty. In the free skate, something broke. Not his body, his mind. The nerves he'd managed to suppress for years came flooding in all at once, too fast and too loud. He fell, then he fell again. The program unraveled, jump by jump, and the boy who had seemed invincible suddenly looked like what he actually was. A 21-year-old human being, standing alone in an enormous arena, crumbling under the weight of the world's expectations. He finished 8th. The arena fell into stunned silence. Even Mikhail Shidorov, the Kazakh skater who had just delivered the performance of his life to claim gold, covered his face with his hands in disbelief. The moment that mattered most. Here is where most stories would end. Here is where the camera usually cuts away to the winner's celebration, to the replays, to the analysis of what went wrong. But Ilia Malinin didn't sit down. Still reeling, still processing the magnitude of what had just happened, he rose from his seat and walked across the ice toward Mikhail Shidorov. He wrapped his arms around him. He smiled. He said congratulations and meant it. The arena watched, unsure what it had just witnessed. Former teammate Mariah Bell said it best. Even though we saw his heartbreak today, it was so incredible to see him stand up and immediately go congratulate the Olympic champion. Social media, rarely a place for grace, paused for a moment. Ilia Malinin is a class act. Hugs the winner, speaks honestly such a heartbreaking loss. You got yourself huge fans here today. Later, when asked why he did it, Ilia gave an answer so simple it almost sounded rehearsed, except you could tell it wasn't. Congratulating Mikhail wasn't about the results. It was about the shared journey we take as athletes. We have a competitive rivalry, and it's the reason we push each other to go further. But really, we're also human beings. He wasn't performing sportsmanship, he was just being himself, standing in someone else's rain. A few days later, the storm came for Amber Glenn. His Team USA teammate older than him, a 3-time national champion, someone he called a friend, had her own devastating short program in the women's event. The same crushing feeling, the same silence in the arena, the same eyes watching, measuring, judging. Ilia knew exactly what that felt like. He had just lived it. So he found her. And he said the only thing that was actually true. This is something we all go through. It's not always a pleasant feeling. But we have to embrace it and move on, because no matter what happens, we always have to get up and go do it again. It wasn't a speech. It was a hand extended in the dark. Amber, who had been a source of strength for him after his own fall, later called him her younger brother. And watching them together laughing at Stars on Ice in Tokyo weeks later, Ilia distracted mid-rehearsal, Amber shaking her head. You could see it. The kind of friendship that's forged not in victory but in shared vulnerability. The gray hoodie. At the Olympic Gala on February 21st, Ilia didn't wear a costume. He wore a gray hoodie with the word fear written upside down. He skated to a song called Fear by NF Raw, Searching, Urgent. And in the middle of the performance, he acted out something the audience understood instinctively. The noise of social media, the crushing weight of public expectation, the invisible battles that no score can measure. He swatted the comments away, one by one, and skated through them. He ended with a backflip that shook the building. The standing ovation wasn't for the jump, it was for the honesty. Days earlier, he had posted on Instagram. On the world's biggest stage, those who appear the strongest may still be fighting invisible battles on the inside. Millions of people who had never held a pair of skates felt it in their chest. "We're also human beings," he said in a quiet interview afterward, almost to himself. "It's something I want to push out to the world. I might be an athlete, I may be an artist, but I'm also human." Victory beyond the medal. In March, the International Olympic Committee announced the winner of the 2026 Fair Play Award. It was Ilia Malinin. The award, first given at the 1964 Innsbruck Games, places its recipients alongside legends of sportsmanship athletes who chose humanity over ego at the exact moment when no one would have blamed them for choosing otherwise. IOC President Kirsty Coventry said, "Excellence is not measured solely by a place on the podium, but by the respect and solidarity we show our competitors in our most difficult moments." Ilia responded with the same quiet dignity he'd shown all along. "Knowing that fans worldwide connected with that moment means more to me than any medal." A month later, he won the 2026 World Figure Skating Championships in Prague. The quad god was back. The record books updated, the sport moved forward. But the story people kept telling, the one that traveled the furthest, that got screenshotted and saved and sent to people who needed it, wasn't about the Quad Axel. It wasn't about the world title. It was about a boy who fell down in front of the whole world, got back up, and walked straight toward the person who had beaten him, arms open, no bitterness, only grace. Medals get locked in display cases. Records eventually get broken. But the way you treat people when you're hurting, that's the thing that echoes. Ilia Malinin is 21 years old. He is already, in the truest sense of the word, a champion.